Hello everyone, this is Aaron from MTGChallengers and welcome to another Magic the Gathering highlights video. For today's match, we have me playing Jeskai Tempo going up against Evan playing Abzan Aggro. Evan was on the play for game 1 and started things off with the Caves of Koilos and paid 1 life for it to cast a Soldier of the Pantheon. I laid down a mountain and played a Monastery Swiftspear. Evan played a Llanowar Wastes, taking 2 more life from his lands and resolved a Fleecemane Lion. I just played a Mana Confluence for my next turn. Evan laid down a Confluence of his own. He then went to 16 to cast a Warden of the First Tree and swung in with his Lion. I chose to take the 3 damage, going to 17. I played a Shivan Reef and went to 16 myself to cast a Goblin Rabblemaster. I moved to combat, getting myself a 1/1 Goblin token with haste and swung in with it. In response, Evan made his Warden a 3/3 Human Warrior, going to 15 and used it to block. On his next turn, he went to 13 to make the Warden a Spirit with Trample and Lifelink. He then swung with his Lion for another 3, which I chose to take. I played a Battlefield Forge as my land for turn. I then entered combat, getting myself another Goblin and swung Alpha for 5. Evan blocked the token with his Warden and my Rabblemaster with the Soldier of the Pantheon. Before damage, I paid 2 life and cast a Jeskai Charm, giving my creatures +1/+1 in lifelink, triggering Prowess on my Swiftspear. Evan did also gain a life from the Soldier's ability. I then sacrificed my Goblin token and paid another life to cast a collateral damage, killing Evan's Warden. My Rabblemaster stayed alive and the Swiftspear hit for 4 since Prowess was triggered twice, dropping Evan to 10. I also gained 8 life, going up to 18. Evan resolved a Whip of Erebos on his next turn, going to 8. He then hit me for 3 with his Lion and gained 3 himself from the Whip's ability. I swung with my team for 5 again, which Evan chose to take, going to 6. In post-combat, I cast a Monastery Mentor, going to 14. Evan resolved an Anafenza the Foremost on his next turn, going to 4 and swung with his Lion. I chose to take it again, going to 11, and Evan went up to 7. In post-combat, Evan went back down to 5 to cast another Lion. I got myself another Goblin on my next turn and sent them and my Rabblemaster to the red zone for 6. Evan blocked the Rabblemaster with his untapped Lion and blocked one of the tokens with Anafenza. The other token did get through for 1, but due to the lifelink, Evan gained 7, going up to 11. He went to 10 on his next turn to cast a Rakshasa Death Dealer and sent the rest of his team to the red zone. This triggered Anafenza's ability, allowing him to put a +1/+1 counter on the Lion. I chose to chump Anafenza with my Swiftspear and leave the Lion unblocked. Before damage, Evan paid 3 life to cast an Abzan Charm to give the Lion 2 more +1/+1 counters. I took 6 from it, going to 5, and Evan gained 10, going to 17. I delved 2 cards in my graveyard and tapped out, going to 4 and cast a Treasure Cruise. This triggered the Mentor's ability, allowing me to put a 1/1 Monk token with Prowess onto the battlefield. I drew my 3 cards, played a land for turn, and passed it back. Evan went to 15 to whip back the Fleecemane Lion in his grave and swung Alpha. He chose to put the counter from Anafenza onto his Death Dealer. I blocked everything but the Reanimated Lion, taking 3, going to 1, and Evan gained 16, going to 31. I was able to resolve another Mentor, but couldn't cast any of my spells without hurting myself and was finished off by Evan's next attack, giving him the win and taking us to game 2. Welcome to game 2. I was on the play and laid down a Mystic Monastery for my first turn. Evan played a Mana Confluence and went to 19 with it to cast a Soldier of the Pantheon. I just played a Shivan Reef and passed. Evan played a Llanowar Wastes and swung for 2 with his Soldier, taking me to 18. In post-combat, he went to 17 to cast a Fleecemane Lion, however I countered it with a Neutralizing Blast. I laid down a Mountain and cast a Monastery Mentor. Evan swung for 2 with his Soldier again, which I chose to take. He then played a second Confluence and went down to 15 to kill my Mentor with a Bile Blight. I resolved a Goblin Rabblemaster on my next turn. I then entered combat, getting myself a 1/1 Goblin token with haste and took Evan to 14 with it. Evan took me to 14 with his Soldier on his next combat. He paid 3 more life to resolve a Fleecemane Lion and a second Soldier of the Pantheon in main phase 2. At the end of his turn, I sacrificed my Goblin token to kill the Lion with a collateral damage. I exiled the untapped Soldier on my next turn with a Glare of Heresy. I then got another Goblin and swung with my team for 4, dropping Evan to 7. Evan had to go down to 4 on his next turn to cast an Anafenza the Foremost, which I countered with another Neutralizing Blast. I was able to finish Evan off with a Stoke the Flames on my next turn, giving me the win and taking us to game 3. Welcome to Game 3. Evan took the play and opened with a Sandstep Citadel. I followed suit with a Mystic Monastery. Evan laid down a Caves of Koilos and paid 1 life with it to cast a Rakshasa Death Dealer. I just played a Shivan Reef and passed it back. Evan played a second Citadel and hit me for 2 with the Death Dealer, taking me to 18. I played a Mountain and resolved a Goblin Rabblemaster. I got myself a 1/1 Goblin with haste and swung in, taking Evan to 18. Evan played a Forest and resolved a Siege Rhino, gaining himself 3 life, going to 21 and taking me down to 15. He then swung with his Death Dealer for another 2, which I chose to take. I cast a Monastery Mentor on my next turn. I then got myself a second Goblin token and swung with both of them along with the Rabblemaster. Evan blocked one of the tokens with his Rhino and took the other 5, going to 16. He resolved an Anafenza the Foremost. He then went to 14 to follow it up with a Glare of Heresy to exile my Monastery Mentor. In response, I sacrificed my Goblin token and cast a Collateral Damage, killing the Death Dealer, and got myself a Monk with Prowess. He swung with his Rhino for 4, which I chose to take, going to 9. On my next turn, I cast a Harness by Force, gaining control of Anafenza for the turn, as well as activating Prowess. I then cast a Glare of Heresy of my own, exiling the Rhino and triggering Prowess again. I got another Goblin token and swung Alpha. I got to use Anafenza's ability, giving the Rabblemaster a +1/+1 counter. This did a total of 12 damage to Evan, dropping him down to 2. He was able to resolve a Whip of Erebos on his next turn, but I went down to 8 and dealt him 4 damage with a Jeskai Charm, giving me the win to the game and the match. So that's it for these highlights. If you enjoyed them, feel free to check out the full gameplay as well as the deck lists in the description box. Also, be sure to like our Facebook page for announcements, updates, and other behind the scenes information. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, subscribe for more Magic the Gathering content.